Hello everybody and welcome back to the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage YouTube channel. Today I wanted to show you another sort of inspection approach I have to sewing motors. I haven't shown this in a while, maybe not ever. So most sewing machine motors have, of course, they have a pulley, it's usually a small pulley, and that pulley is attached to the drive shaft of the armature of your motor. And virtually all of them, at least in vintage sewing machines, have a screw, an access screw. And that access screw is there so that the pulley can be removed. Again, like many vintage consumer products, they were designed to be maintained and or repaired, unlike a lot of the products we get today. Now, what you want to do, I'm going to be showing you, I'm actually going to remove the pulley. Sometimes these pulleys can stick, they can be on there a while. And there's a tiny little screw, size of a peppercorn, sitting right there. And I'm going to be extra careful because I don't want to strip that screw. I don't want to have to find one. And I'd like to be able to use it when I put it back together. Now, before you go to remove the screw and then remove the pulley, make a note of how much distance there is between your pulley and the motor. Because obviously the pulley can't be right up beside it because it would scrape against it. It would, you would lose your power and damage the side of the motor. The reason you want to do this is many times when you have a shaft, normally either the shaft has a flat side that the little tiny bolt will bite into, and then sometimes the shaft actually has a hole for that screw and it only goes one way. I've not seen this one before, so we're going to try it, but make a note of this. And again, you are going to want to put something soft and fluffy underneath your motor. It can be an old towel. This one is fairly old. Now why? You guys, if you've watched my channel enough, you know that, well, things can get dropped. And if it's a large thing, it goes clank. Usually you can find it, but you really do not want to go chasing little screws. And you can say, oh, that won't happen to me. Well, ask me how I know. So I went in and I found the smallest and most narrow screwdriver tip that I have. And yes, it's a good fit. This is the last thing I want to do is strip the screw. Now I'm going to turn it. And, this thing is turning very easily. You may not have to totally undo this screw. This machine has been unusual. I think it's been a while since it was used, but I swear it's very odd to have a machine where this many of its pieces seem to come, they seem to come right off and do what I ask without struggle or fighting, which is unusual. Now I'm going to turn this screw a little bit more, but I'm moving this. Now what you may find is, let's say you loosen the screw or you remove the screw, and a lot of times you'll pull and this pulley will not move, it won't budge. Now there's one of two things going on. Either you have not loosened the screw enough and it's still holding on to an anchor point like a hole or a depression, a recessed area in the shaft, or there's some corrosion. Remember, a lot of these pulleys have just been sitting here since it left the factory. This one, well, how about that? It just came right off. Again, I have no idea. It's just, I'm to use an old expression, I'm getting gravy here and I'm just not used to it. You guys have seen me struggle with parts before, removing parts before. So this is a little built up crud of some sort. Now, what else would I like to do? Notice that I have here, I haven't checked with this side here, this motor, I am pretty darn sure that this is steel, but I'm going to check it with my magnet. And the reason I want to do this is because I've worked on a lot more Singer motors than Pfaff motors. And what I want to know is this plastic? Now, if it's plastic, I would not use 99% isopropyl alcohol, but I can use some diluted stuff, maybe 25–30%, or maybe a cleaner to get, there's a little bit of buildup of grime here. But, it's interesting. Now, here, it doesn't stick. Now, we know this is steel. That magnet is sticking there. This is curious because I'm very surprised, and I don't yet know if this is the sound it makes. I'm guessing at this. It just doesn't sound like plastic. It could be aluminum. It would be. There's not really a lot of aluminum on this machine. I can tell you. You'll know when you pick one of these up. So curious. Anyway, so what can we do? We can take. All right. We'll take a cotton swab and go around this area here. And what you'll find sometimes, you might think, well, what's the point? Why did you have to take this off and look at this? One of the reasons, other than making sure there's nothing stuck here, remember, as I've shared in other videos, one of the things that thread does. Now you can say, well, there shouldn't be any thread down here. This is the pulley for the belt. Your sewing machine, particularly vintage machines, they have different parts, different areas, whether it's the motor belt, the hand wheel, the bobbin winder. When a piece of thread breaks, it can get a mind of its own and can cause a lot of hardship. You would be surprised. You think it's just sewing thread. Oh no. So I want to make sure, and I'm inspecting here, and is there anything stuck here that should be taken off? Anything that would bind, and maybe, I've actually had sewing machines run really slowly because they were bound up with thread. Sewing thread, it's small, but it's mighty, and you really, really, really want to be sure that your machine is not suffering because of something you can't see. And so the whole purpose of this is to make sure that that's not happening. So if you have any buildup here, there's not much of any buildup here, but make sure if you're going to use any solvent, even water diluted alcohol, don't get it on the black section, because again, I think that this is aluminum and I think it's painted, and I don't want to harm that paint. That paint's beautiful. It's dirty, but there are ways we can clean that, but we definitely don't want to cause harm to any paint surface just because we're trying to clean something else. It's one of those things where you come up with a solution for one problem and then you create another problem. That's not something we want to do. So, can any of you guys guess what I could use that would be very safe, has always been safe, to clean any painted surface of a sewing machine? You guys remember? It's your sewing machine oil, right? Just like we've used on the body of sewing machines to clean them. It's a very gentle way. It can work quite well. It doesn't always work super fast, but it can actually work quite well to clean a surface. And I'm just putting a few drops on the end of a cotton swab here. Again, we don't want things dribbling, and cotton swabs, if you don't flood them, are actually good at holding on to various liquids without causing issues. So what am I doing? I'll take the oiled end here, and I'm just going to come around and see what I can remove. In fact, look at this. Look at this in the light. I think you guys will see it if I can hold it still long enough for you. Do you see this little dark area here? That's a buildup of something. It's black, and I have a feeling I know what it is. I think I showed you all in a prior video on this machine that the motor belt, even though it is an old motor belt, here it is in incredible shape to be an older belt. But I don't think it's the original. In fact, notice when I try to put a curve in it, I think I tried to show this in the last video, but I don't know how good the light was. Look at that. I don't even have any cracks in this belt. What does that tell me? When this machine was made, they had a motor belt installed, and I think that belt over time degraded, and they replaced it. But they may have replaced it in like 1968, and so that's a long time ago. And so, what am I doing here? I'm gonna get another swab, some oil here. Again, you may be tempted to say, oh, I'm just going to get some strong cleaner. Let's just get that gone. I'm not doing that because again, if I was more familiar and had worked on, 100 of these, like I've worked on hundreds of, Japanese clone motors and Singer motors and even Neki motors, FOFs are, if you have something you're not used to, you know, proceed with a little more intention. Pay close attention to that because whatever this filth is here, should not be here. Now, I don't want this to fall into my motor. So notice if I hold the motor like this and I start scraping it, it might fall into one of the holes in the side. Well, that's not productive. So let's not do that. Instead, I'm going to hold the motor like this vertically. So if I do get something loosened, hopefully it falls down and not into the motor. So I'm going to be holding it like this. And it is some kind of, I can't tell you guys exactly what it is, but I have a feeling it's residue from an old belt. And motor belts can last a very long time, but they don't last forever. The rubber is made from, whoa, look at that. Whoa, you see that? You see what I just did? I dislodged something, but I don't want it going in my motor, and it did not. Ha ha, look at that. You guys see? Let's see if that shows up. There we go. This piece was right where I was pointing at, and because I tilted the motor vertically, that little piece fell right there, right on that little ledge, and I did not want it in the motor. Yes, you can dislodge it from the motor, but you don't want to make more work for yourself. And again, one of the reasons I typically like to go slower, for some of you who've never worked on a machine, of course you should. Whenever you see videos like the ones I post here, there are some things that I go through, and I can go through them pretty expediently because I've done them many times. But if you can't, it's okay, right? Don't beat yourself up because, well, gosh, this person on YouTube is just flying through this. Why is it taking me so long? Because you've not done it before, right? That's how we all learn. That's how I learn. I'm really slow when I do something for the first time, and as you can tell we're pushing 14 minutes on this video, and I'm simply talking about residue on the side of a motor. If I had done this many times, I would just do it and be done with it, but I haven't, so I'm going slower. And I thought, well, I like the viewers of this channel to see me. I've mentioned this before to you all. Sometimes you have to redo stuff. Sometimes, whoops, you have an oops moment. You try to avoid them, but they happen, and it's okay. Some people give up. They get frustrated because you see something online that looks like, oh, well, they make it look so easy. And of course it's not. Once you learn something, it becomes easier. I don't think I'll ever describe anything as easy. I just don't think I could do that with a straight face. So let's see. We'll do another one. And again, I'm just using. I have a cotton swab with some that has been wet with sewing machine oil. Excuse me. And I am not putting it in the motor. Do not put this in the motor. That's not what we're doing. We're cleaning the outside of the motor housing. Now, you might think, well, are you doing this for aesthetic reasons? Who cares? I'm not going to look at this. Actually, not entirely, because, whether I choose to reuse the other belt that was a replacement at some point or a new belt, I don't want that residue being hit by the pulley or the belt, because if I do, it could come off. Any kind of filth that's on your machine, if you leave it on there, it can find its way into places you don't want. And so, now I'm going to come back with a dry cotton swab, and I'm going to mop up what I did. The idea was not to lubricate this, but simply to clean it. And so you want to get all of that mopped up with, just take some dry cotton swabs. For this area, I can just use my generic cotton swabs. And I got to resupply myself. I'm almost out of my precision tips. Oh my, it's one of my main tools, right? Okay, so there we go. This is a very important part. Anytime you have a pulley, you definitely want to make sure that there's no lint, filth, or threads that are binding. And actually, by doing that, we're able to see some residue that was left by an old belt. Okay, now one thing I will use alcohol on is my pulley. Now the pulley itself, where are you, alcohol? The pulley itself, some of you have seen me do this. You have seen me take cotton swabs with my 99%, and I put it, of course, in the groove where the belt normally goes, because that is an area that not only can get residue from the belt, you never know, there could be oil residue in there, and the last thing you need is a lack of friction for the belt. That's the whole point of having the belt. That's how belts work on these pulleys. So I'm doing that, and you guys have seen me do that before. However, you can also do the same thing with the hole that goes through the pulley, right? So let me get I'll get a clean swab here. And what am I doing? I'm going to take the swab, and I'm just going to take it. I'm just going to take the swab and just sort of twirl it in there. I'm trying to get, there really shouldn't be much of anything in there, right? But you never know. There could be old oil in there because there are people who have had machines and they didn't know where to oil things, and so they would just squirt oil in the wrong places. Not a good thing. So anyway, what am I doing here? Look here. Do you guys see there's some remnants of black crud? This is the same stuff that was stuck to the side of the motor. So I'm actually coming, but this is a metal pulley, by the way, so I'm using my 99%. It is not painted. It is plated with either nickel. I'm pretty sure that's nickel plated. But I'm coming here and I'm getting off this black residue, and I don't want it on there because, again, I don't want it. It's not that it's hurting the pulley so much as long as it doesn't cause a resistance to the pulley's motion. My main concern is that I don't want it crumbling or flying around and getting in that motor. So, come around here, and whatever it is dissolving with that 99% alcohol. And if your cotton swab gets dirty, there's always more. And again, I know that some of us are more retentive than others. The reason I'm doing this is not really aesthetics, right? You say, well, I'm never going to look at this thing when it's back on. But you're doing it because you want sometimes clean is not just for making something attractive. We all want our machines to look good, yes, of course. But the cleaning series is not always about aesthetics. Sometimes it's about function, such as places like the groove and so forth. Now, on the outside of the pulley, it looks like there's some sort of old film on here, and I believe it's old oil. I'm not going to clean that off. I could, if you want to, you can remove that with the alcohol, but then you may want to add some polish. Never put polish or don't put anything in the valley, in the groove part of your pulley, or you're really gonna have problems with friction. But the old oil acts as sort of a protective film, and the pulley is none the worse for wear. So that is how to inspect behind your pulley. And I am pleased to say there was a little bit of, I don't know, fuzz, but mostly remnants of the old motor belt. You just never know, and it's good to know at this point. Now you say, well, this is kind of getting into the weeds. We really haven't assessed how the machine runs. No, but I've been focused on the motor, and that's, I kind of, my approach, and you all may have a different approach, is that I like to kind of work in areas of the machine at once. Talk about the motor, inspect the motor, clean the motor, and then move on to other areas. So, in either the next video or one of the next videos, I'm going to go underneath and start looking at the underside of the machine, because now I can set the motor and the light aside and I don't have to worry about crushing it when I tip my machine back. We will definitely cushion the machine, but the machine, for example, if I put the lever down, then I have I don't have a lot blocking or that's very vulnerable back there, as long as I cushion it. So again, this is one of those details that may come back to help you. I appreciate all of you watching. Thank you for visiting my channel, whether you are one of my seasoned viewers or whether you are brand new. Please feel free to subscribe to the channel. Just click on the subscribe button. And if you would, if you see value in anything on this channel, please consider donating to the channel with Buy Me a Coffee. You'll see links for Buy Me a Coffee on every one of my videos, and as well as the home page. And it'll take you to my Buy Me a Coffee site that looks just like my YouTube site. And you can donate at any level you wish, because it would really help me in keeping my channel commercial free, for one, and it helps me put funds toward rescuing more machines, and then I can bring them here on the channel and share them with all of you, and share with you all of my my journey toward waking these machines up and finding them new homes so that they truly become and remain heirloom devices. Thank you all. We'll see you next time.